In this beginner's guide, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to add vinyl to your tumbler cups. First thing that's really important to note when you are adding vinyl onto your tumbler cups is the shape of your tumbler cup. If you have a tumbler cup that looks like this with quite a big curve to it, that is going to affect the kind of design and placement of your vinyl to your tumbler cup. I would recommend avoiding those when you're first starting out, because as you apply, because of that big curve, sometimes it can make particular sort of vinyl designs have crinkles and wrinkles in them as you apply them. They're a lot harder to work with, so I'd recommend going with one of these two particular tumbler cups that you can see here. So one of them is completely straight up and down, which is the easiest to work with, and the other one just goes a little bit more narrow down at the base. It's a tiny bit harder to work with, but overall these are really great options to go with if you are a beginner. Something else that's really important to note when you are applying vinyl to a resin tumbler cup is you need to prep your tumbler cup correctly before you apply your vinyl. The first thing you want to do is your resin base layer. For this video, I'm doing a glitter resin base layer, but it's completely up to you whether you want to do just a colored base layer, an alcohol ink base layer, but basically you want to do your first coat of resin, and then you want to let it set for a full 24 hours. Now, if you are brand new into doing tumbler cups with resin, then I would definitely recommend going and watching my beginner's guide, where I'll go in more in depth on how to add resin to tumbler cups. But for this video, I am just focusing on how to apply the vinyl onto your resin tumbler cups. Now, once it's had 24 hours to dry, you want to get some sandpaper. So I think this one is a 400 grit sandpaper, and you want to completely sand the entire surface area of your cup. Once you've done that, give it a really good wash to remove any of the dust with some dishwashing liquid and just some soapy water, and let that completely dry. The reason why it's important to sand back that first layer of resin is it will help the vinyl grip to the resin a lot better, and you also just want to make sure that you give it a really good clean after you've done so, because you don't want to have any of that resin dust still on your tumbler cup when you go to apply your vinyl, because it will affect the way that it will adhere to the surface area. Before I do start cutting out my vinyl design, I'm just double checking that all my measurements are correct and I can size that vinyl up correctly to fit my cup. To create my designs, I'm going to be using the Cricut Design Space and the Cricut Maker 3 to cut all of my designs out. So I've just found these flowers through the Cricut Design Space, and they were individual flowers that I have added together, sized them, and now I'm just grouping them together so that way when it cuts it out on my Maker, it will cut them out all together. The vinyl that I will be using for this is the Smart Vinyl Permanent. Now, this vinyl does not require a mat, but if you are using a different type of vinyl, then it might require a mat to be placed with it. So I've chosen the without the mat option, and I've also am not mirroring this image because it doesn't require that. Now, I'm also going to be connecting this up to my Maker, and then I am picking the Smart Vinyl Permanent option. I personally also just like to change the settings when it does come to the pressure and go for a little bit more. I do find because of the Smart Vinyl is a little bit thicker, that having the cuts be a little bit more firmer or more pressure just gives me a more cleaner cut. And then the next steps are super simple. I just load up my vinyl directly onto the Cricut Maker because I am using the Smart Vinyl. I don't need a mat at all. And then I just let the Cricut Maker do its thing and cut my design out. When my vinyl has all been cut, I then just like to cut it into a smaller square so it's easier to manage, and I just pull off the backing. So by doing this, I'm going to be left with just the flowers in the center. Now, there are multiple ways that you can attach vinyl on to your cups. This is the easiest way I have found, especially for a design like this, which is just the outline of the flowers. This is going to be the easiest way to transfer it across. Now I'm going to weed the small pieces from the inside of the flowers, and I'm just going to do that by using my little weeding tool. This makes it really easy to just pull up the extra vinyl inside the flowers. After I've pulled up all of the background vinyl, I then just get some transfer tape that I've cut to size and I just pull the backing off that. This is nice and sticky and I place that on top of my vinyl cut out. Now transfer tape can be reused a few times, so definitely make sure that after you do use it, put it to one side and you can keep reusing it to keep transferring so you're not wasting so much of your transfer tape. Then I get my little Cricut scraper and I just run that completely over the top of my vinyl design. This step is really important to make sure that you fully press the entire surface area, everywhere you've got that vinyl, really into the transfer tape, especially if you are doing something like this, which is really fine and delicate, because you don't want to have it accidentally rip as you are pulling that transfer tape off. It's also a really good technique to use if you're doing something like this one, where you can see I've got individual letters. By applying the transfer tape on top to individual letters, it means that when you transfer it over, all of the spacing will stay exactly the same. This is the easiest way I've found by applying that transfer tape on top to do lettering like this one. For this cup, I went with a pink multi-glittered background, and I've already done all the prep work where I sanded it and I've washed it, and I've also given it a spray down with some alcohol to remove any residue that might still be on the surface. Something else that I do like to do is just use this sticky roller to help lift any dust or dirt that might still be there before applying my vinyl. When applying the vinyl, always place the center down first and then work your way out from the center to smooth that area down. Then once again, I get my scraper tool and I'm using that over the top of the transfer tape just to make sure that the vinyl has been pushed into all of the surface area before I remove my transfer tape off. For this next one, I'm going to show you how you can do a design with multiple layers of vinyl. So for this, I'm going to be doing just a saying. So pick whatever saying you want and pick your font style. Then you want to group it. And then I'm going to put the background behind it. So I'm going to go up to offset. I'm going to choose the size that I want. And I've decided I'm going to go with a rounded corner. And then I want to weld it and press apply. Then I need to weld my design so that way I have the two layers, so the yellow and black together. And then when I'm happy with it, I just press make, and I can see in my Cricut design space that I have got two layers, which shows me that it will cut out my base layer in one cut and then cut out all of my words in my second cut. And then just like before, I add my vinyl into my Cricut Maker 3, and I need to do this twice. So I'm doing my background in this silver, and then I'm doing the letters in gold. To apply the double layer of vinyl, I am once again using my transfer tape. I'm applying the background first and doing all of the exact same steps that I've done previously to apply the vinyl. And then once I have my background down, I can then apply my next layer of vinyl, which is my writing, on top of that. I also do find it a lot easier to apply my vinyl with the cup standing up than lying down, but for the sake of this video and so you can see what I'm doing, I am doing it with the cup lying down, but you do find it will wiggle about when it is like this, so it's a lot easier to apply it when the cup is upright. And the last step in this process is to top coat it with resin. This will just seal the vinyl on to your tumbler cup. Now before I do that, I am just going to be adding a little bit of alcohol ink into the areas where I did my flowers, just because I feel like you couldn't really see them that well, and this will just help those flowers pop out a little bit more. Now this is obviously a completely optional step. I'm just doing it because I think it will help enhance my design. Now if you are going to be doing an alcohol ink design on your cups, you just need to make sure that you seal them first before you do add resin on top, because alcohol inks will bleed into the resin if they are not sealed. The sealer that I like to use is the Duramax sealer, but there are many different sealers on the market. I also like to seal over the top of my letters when it is on that double layer vinyl, just to make sure that they really stick on to the first layer. Sometimes I find that letters can lift slightly off when you do place the resin if it is on a glittered vinyl background, which I used for my silver vinyl. So by just giving them a spray with that sealer, it just helps them grip a little bit better onto a glittered background. When I am doing my final clear layer of resin, I like to take my time with it, making sure that I have the complete surface area covered and also that I don't have any bubbles in my resin. So I like to use a blowtorch just to pop any bubbles that I might have. Take your time with this because it is the last layer of resin and it's going to be really noticeable if there are bubbles or imperfections in this layer. And like always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you are new to my channel and you want to see some more resin tumbler cup tutorials, then definitely go and check this playlist linked up above. I've got a whole bunch of different tutorials available there. And if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up as it really helps my channel out.